You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again. Today, man, we have a true honor talking to our guest. Today, we have Marc Paisant, and he is the one that's going to help us today in today's interview. We're going to talk about his amazing podcast, Relatively Normal, but he's also going to be talking about a very important topic, mental health and mental health awareness. When we talk to him, I hope you listen and share this with someone that you know may need this. So first and foremost, Marc, I just want to welcome you to the show today. So how you doing today, man?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. My pleasure being a part of the show. Really looking forward to the conversation.
So, man, you were a college athlete, and today's topic, we're going to dive into how physical fitness can help with mental health. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself and the college days of being an athlete, man.
Yeah, I was a college athlete. I was a soccer player at Clemson back from 97 to 2000 and played soccer for all of my life as a kid, teenager, was recruited. My brother and I were both recruited pretty heavily in the Southeast to play soccer, South Carolina, Clemson, my brother, Georgia State, all the Georgia schools, and play basketball also. But one thing that they don't tell a lot of athletes, especially college athletes, is like once the game is over, you're in charge of your physical fitness. So I kind of forgot about that in my 20s and, kind of did a little bit of what every 20-something-year-old does, a little bit too much drinking, partying, hanging out late at night. And I ballooned. I was at about 200 in my playing days, and I ballooned up to be about 321 at my heaviest.
Man, so you look nothing like that right now. So what was that process like when you say, you know what, all right, I'm going to get back to my old days and reclaim this?
Yeah. So, and that's a great way of putting it, but it was a long process, and a process that I learned a lot about myself and learned a lot about the stuff I talk about now on my show, because, I got to a point where I was fed up with the way I looked and the way I felt. And I mean, just every time you got up, back was hurting. I was too young to have knee issues and back issues, and I had chronic ankle and foot pain. And every doctor I went to was like, hey, we can give you this medicine, but you got to lose some weight if you want your ankles to feel better, if you want your knees to feel better, if you want your back to feel better. And I got to a point where I was just like, I don't think it's ever going to happen. Like, I was pretty depressed. I was pretty down on myself, had some, suicidal ideations and all that stuff. And with the help of my wife, and we kind of got a plan together, and this was just the physical part. And I ended up losing about 75 pounds in 9 months by just running, going to the gym, and changing my diet. There was no diet pills. There was nothing like that. But I ended up breaking my foot on a run one day. And for someone who has those depressive tendencies, I thought that was the end of the world. Had to have 2 surgeries. Was in a cast for 6 months. Navicular fracture. Look it up. It's a pretty painful process. And I just thought, okay, that's it. Like, dad mode on. I had my girls by that point, and khakis and Asics. It is like that's who I'm going to be. And thank goodness my doctor went in and kind of did some cleaning up, and I felt better. I'm like, okay, let me try this again. And this is the part where it gets kind of iffy, because I end up losing the weight. I end up losing more weight, and I feel good about myself. But mentally, I still feel like that overweight guy. Like, mentally, I look in the mirror and I still have that issue nowadays. I'm working through that now. But I had to start being intentional with both my physical and my mental health. I thought once I lost the weight, I'd be cool. I'd be like, all right, I'm happy now. I'm good. But that wasn't the case. And you'll see it. There's data that proves that a lot of people who lose a large amount of weight have the same amount of depression and anxiety than they did when they had the weight. So that's why, if you have a personal trainer, think of that person helping with your body. You have to do the same thing with a therapist or a life coach or a psychologist. You have to do the same thing for your mental and work on them together and have them help each other. It's not one versus the other. They have to help each other.
Man, and you are someone that we gotta have people like you speak and talk because there's so much resources out there. And yes, if you're listening to this right now, we do encourage you to seek professional help. But you having the platform now, like I said,
Right.
you have a podcast where you're able to talk about certain topics that hit close to home, and you also have guests that can touch on these topics that are very needed for communities out there. When you are having your bad days, how do you keep yourself like motivated to say, you know what, all right, I'm having a tough day, but I'm gonna just find a way to get through this?
So it's that's a process in itself. And when I was in my 20s and I knew, and I first started my therapy journey, which I talk about on my show, I would just bet on time. Like I knew, and this sounds probably bad saying it out loud, but I knew within 2 weeks I'd be better. Like when I was really depressed, like I just waited it out. Like I didn't work on it. Like I didn't do any of that. I just waited because I knew, because my brain functions this way. So I knew if I just waited 10 to 14 days, I would feel better. So I would have a really bad 10 to 14 days working, spending time with my girlfriend or wife, because I'm sure I was dating her and then we got married, had the same issues. So, and like it felt as bad as it sounds to say now. Like I was literally waiting it out. So now the thing about it is I've realized that this is who I am. This is my normal. This is how my brain functions. Like I could be in a really good spot in life, but my brain might tell me, nah, you're going to be anxious today. You're going to be depressed. Like this is what's going to happen. But what I've done is I've validated my feelings, which I didn't in the past. Like in the past, in Black men, we're so used to doing this. Like we're so used to be feeling bad, but telling ourselves we shouldn't feel bad. Like, what do you have to feel bad about? Like, pick yourself up, be a man. And that's such a dangerous way to talk to yourself, because you would never, like if I had my brother or a friend or another Black male come to me and tell he felt bad, like if I told him to man up and, and hey, why are you feeling like this? And I totally invalidated his feelings and our friendship. Like I'd be a terrible friend. So I was being a terrible friend to myself. So what I do now is on the darkest of days, which I haven't had a lot lately, I've been doing pretty well, is I'll tell myself it's okay that I feel this way. It's fine that I feel, I might write it down. I feel this way right now. And I had a friend tell me that one of the most poetic and powerful things, once you write it down, you put it out in the universe. So you don't have to carry it all. Everyone can carry it for you. And so I've developed those coping mechanisms instead of just like, hey, all right, today's Monday. All right, next Friday, I'll be good. Like that's literally how I did it. And I don't do that anymore. I have coping mechanisms. I make sure I exercise. If I feel really down, I'll go for a run. I'll go to the gym. I'll make sure I do some push-ups or sit-ups, get that energy going, get that blood. If it's the summer and I feel really bad, like I literally will, and I don't tell people to do this, but I'll put on like an all black shirt and go for a run in the Georgia heat and just sweat that out until I'm exhausted. And I feel so much better after I do that.
When people are listening to this right now, and maybe someone has similar experiences, what is the starting point of how they can get started with the conversation about what they're going through? What's some of the things that they can pay attention to get the ball rolling?
So, and that's the question, right? That is the question. Like that's the one everyone asks. Like, how do I even begin this conversation? How do I even ask my friend, like, what's going on with them? And the first thing I tell people, and again, I'm not a therapist, not a doctor, so, I'm not going to give you any medical advice. I'm not going to tell you anything like that. But what I will give you advice on is, as a friend, is that first and foremost, you have to be nice to yourself. Like that's the first thing you have to do before you say a word, before you decide to tell somebody how you're feeling. Like you have to be, you can't beat yourself up anymore. Like that's such a hard thing to not do. But then the second part is, I'm going to tell you right now, whether you believe me or not, you're not alone. Like you're not going through this by yourself. Because one of the things that it's really unfortunate about depression and anxiety is that they're such selfish diseases. They're selfish in a way where you think you're the only one going through this at that moment ever in life, ever in the world. You feel like you're the only one being rained on. There's only one rain cloud. It's above you. The whole world is happy. And you're the one that's, getting rained on right now. And that's the hardest thing to overcome. But what I've realized, and I think people realize once they open their mouth, is that once I opened up to people and said, hey, I'm not feeling well. Like I've been depressed for this. Like I can't get out of bed. It's hard for me to do this, that. Like people will listen to you. And then they'll tell their stories. And you're like, oh, you felt that way too? It's like, yeah. And it's like, you talk to another person. Oh, I've been anxious. And it's like, okay, all right. Well, no one got mad at me. No one said I was stupid. No one said I was dumb. And it starts that conversation. Now, on the flip side of that, which might be the hardest side, is that I tell people all the time is that people are always telling you that they're not feeling well. Men particularly do it a certain way, and we don't always catch up on it. Like we'll come into a group of guys or come to our apartment, we'll have roommates or whatever, go talk to our friend and say, man, today was rough. I just need a drink. And it's like, that right there is a sign for you to say, let me pause. Hey, what's up? Like, what's going on? Tell me about today. But what we do instead is like, all right, let's go. I got the keys. We're going out. We're heading out. It's like, okay, I mean, you're going to blow off some steam, but nothing's going to be talked about. So as men, and I don't want to talk for women, of course, but for men, we need to be more alert to those signs because we can help each other out more than we do. But we just have to be more alert to those signs.
And when it comes to noticing those signs, how have you been able to, not how have you been able to, how often have you been working on your mental health? And is it like throughout the day? Is it like you just pick a day in the week? Okay, this is my day to focus on this. Like, how do you structure that for yourself?
So right now I work out at the gym or go for a run every day. I work on my mental health every day. Like I can't take a day off. I mean, I can take a day off, but I choose not to take a day off. And I'm not telling everybody to do that, but that's how I gain control over this. That's how, like, if you want, there's people out there who are, I don't know if everybody knows the writer, James Patterson. I don't read his books, but I was able to read what he said about writing because he's written hundreds of books. Like he writes the alphabet books and all that stuff. And he has like one come out, like it's crazy. But he says the advice he gives to writers is, listen, this is my job. I sit down, I have an office, I write every day for 8 hours. Like this is my job. Like I don't pick and choose when I'm going to do it. Like this is what I do for a living. And that's how I look at mental health. It's like, I don't want to just pick and choose when I do it. Like, okay, today I want to feel good. Tomorrow, whatever. That's not me anymore. From the moment I wake up throughout my day, I have check-ins. I make sure, and here's the thing, which is cool about me now, is that if I'm tired, if I'm listless, if I'm just don't have it that day, I'm cool with that. I let myself rest or relax, or I take a nap. Like before, I just power through everything. But mentally, if I'm drained, I will tell you, mentally, I'm drained. And the days I don't do that, of all people, my wife notices. And she's like, what's going on? Like, what happened? Like, I can tell something's wrong. Why don't you go take a rest? Why don't you go upstairs and just lay down? Why don't you go to the gym? Why don't you go for a run? She's in tune to how I am now because I open up to her. and I let her know exactly how I feel. But it's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing, and I'm intentional about it.
And people who don't understand this, what are some ways we can better educate people? Because there's always a stigma with mental health and mental health awareness. What's some better ways we can educate people who do not understand this?
Well, the first thing, and it's quite obvious, is please don't get your mental health information from TikTok. Like, don't get it from TikTok. Don't get it from Instagram. Like, I'm on Instagram, but I literally just post motivational things in my podcasts. But you'll have these pseudo doctors, not even doctors, that'll go in and list, these are the 7 ways you can tell if you have anxiety. And then you go look at their bio, and they went to half a semester at UC Santa Barbara. And it's like, and even doctors get on TikTok and they're like, don't listen to TikTok. Like, what is wrong with you? So, but it's, here's the thing, and it's complex, simple yet complex. There is a stigma around mental health because at some point in someone's life, they were told either don't feel this way or don't talk about feeling this way. Or they went into a conversation with a parent or a loved one and they tried to open up, and that person wasn't equipped to handle that conversation. And so instead of finding someone who was equipped, they just forgot about it. They just pushed it to the side. We have to start this conversation. We have to be willing to be vulnerable. And that's exactly why I started my show. Like, I don't care that people know I'm depressed. I don't care that people know I'm on ADHD medication. I don't care that people know that I've been on anxiety meds. I've been in therapy most of my adult life, that I've been in bad therapy sometimes. I don't care that people know these things about me, because if they see this quote unquote strong, tall black man talk about this stuff, then maybe the next black man will talk about it, and maybe his girlfriend will talk about it, and then maybe her mother will talk about it, and then it goes on and on. And before you know it, everyone's cool. Like, here's the thing: if I bruise my knee right now and I have to go to the hospital, I'm snapping it, put it on Instagram. Hey guys, bruised my knee, I'm okay. Like, everybody's like, oh, sorry, I heard about it. But it's cool. No one that's a physical ailment. We have to treat mental illness like it's a physical ailment. Like, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not real. And that's how we have to look at, mental health now. We have to continually talk about it. I'm going to continue to talk about it. I make sure I talk to my girls about it. I ask them how they're feeling. Before we even talk about what their day was like at school, I ask them how they felt about their day. Because I want to know what their feelings are like. I don't want them to hide their feelings. But to answer your question, simply, we have to talk about it and keep talking about it and keep talking about it. Because once we stop, that stigma just comes back. And I don't want that to happen. Like, I don't want it to happen at all.
Once again, listen to I Refocus Radio, talking to our guest, Marc Paisant. You can go listen to his podcast, Relatively Normal. And man, one more question before we wrap this up with you. Someone listening right now, and maybe they may think they know someone who might be having symptoms of this, or maybe they do know someone, whether it's a friend or a family member or a coworker. What is a good way for them to be a good help for that person?
I'm on Twitter and not that much. I mean, I'm not like, I don't have a huge following or anything like that, but every now and again, I'll post something about mental health or how I'm feeling. And I have these friends, just absolutely wonderful friends, who, when I text something or when I tweet something, and I think it was about a year or two ago, I had tweeted some Mac Miller lyrics, and like, they were, if anybody listens to Mac Miller or listens to his music, it's really deep and soulful, and really, he suffered through depression and anxiety too. And all I wrote behind it was, depression sucks. I didn't say I was depressed. I didn't say anything like that. But within 20 minutes, I got a phone call. Within another 20 minutes, his wife called me. Hey, Marc, just checking up on you. I saw the tweet. Like, I want to make sure you're okay. I want you to know that I love you. And this is coming from another dude. Like, I love you, man. And if you ever need to talk, please let me know. So what I'm trying to say is that people are like, whatever your circle of friends is right now, somebody's going through something. And don't look at mental health and don't look at this as such a bad thing. Look at it as something that you're just trying to, everyone gets stressed. Everyone gets anxious. Everyone gets nervous about a first date or about a test or about an interview or about whatever. They're late for a meeting. Everyone goes through something mentally. So just know that, know that. And it's not a bad idea. Before you talk about the game, before you talk about work, before you talk about girls, boy, whatever you talk about, have you ever just asked your friend how they're doing and then shut up and listen to them? Like that's all. If you text somebody randomly, hey, we haven't talked in a couple of weeks. Hope you're well. If you're going through anything, please let me know. Like just the simple things. And it means a lot. So if we can just make sure that we understand that people are going through something, but we're available to help them. And it doesn't take money, doesn't take a lot of time. Usually it takes a text message, a phone call. That's it. How much is your friend's life worth? How much is your life? Is it worth 5 minutes? Is it worth 2 text messages? Probably worth a lot more than that, but that's all it takes.
Man, if you listen right now, you want to help end this stigma, you need to share this episode and go listen to Marc's podcast, Relatively Normal. And I think this is a really important topic, man. I appreciate you helping educate us on this, because I think more people can help play the role and not be that awkward moment where it's like they think they know everything. It's like, no, you really don't.
You don't. You don't. And that's why I have guests on the show. Like I don't want to even tell you I know everything, but I want to help you find the answer. That's it.
Man, once again, I want to say thank you to you, Marc Paisant, for taking time out of your schedule, man, talking about what you're doing and just helping the audience really learn about this important topic. And man, best wishes with everything you do in your podcast. What can people do to help support you?
You can always just go to the IG page, Relatively Normal Pod. You can go to anchor.fm, become a paid subscriber for as little as 99 cents a month. Or you can just subscribe and just listen and share my show. I've never been out to do this to make money. I really want to make sure that there's a safe space for people to talk and listen to mental health. So that's pretty much it. Facebook page, same thing, Relatively Normal. And if you want to, follow my fitness journey, you can go to IG at Paisant_fitness and just follow my journey. And I do motivational posts, and I just want people to live their best lives. That's it.
Well, there you go, man. We've been talking to Marc Paisant here on Refocus Radio, man. I want to say thank you, sir, for taking time out of your schedule to talk to us today, man.
No problem. You take care of yourself.